Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode on Troubles Restoration. In this episode we're going to be covering both days 14 and 15. It's a 2-day episode where I was stripping the contents of Troubles' front wheel arches and the front clip. So taking out the fog lights, the horn grills, indicators and her headlights. There was quite a lot to do and it was possibly the worst 2 days I've had on the restoration so far. Let's get into it. The first thing I've come to do is just take off one of my rear tail lights. As you can see, it's actually not in great shape. None of the fixings are actually holding the light frame in. I just get under here, free off some of these wires. There we go. Yeah, we've got some old rubber boots hiding the connections here. Try and keep the water out. Again, more bullet connectors. So I'll just wriggle this one off. Or not. See if I can wriggle this one out. Oops. Yep, that is that one. Out. Ouch. And there we go. So that's the light fitting out. As you can see, not in great shape. That's actually about to just drop off. Look. Oh, just fell off. Oh well. Philips light bulbs. Nice. That's that out. Now these are also not in a great way. My hands are so cold. And crap. I actually can't really get much on them. So these fixings are just completely technical term. And I can't get them undone at all. I can't even get a spanner on them. There's just nothing left of them. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to try and free them off a little bit with some mole grips. See if I get those locks on them. So locked on. Can I turn? No. Car's just flexing. Christ, what about the top one? Oh, we got something there. So the top one rotates, bottom one does not. After persevering for some time to try and undo these bolts or screws, I eventually realised that there was actually nuts on the back of them. So I've managed to get this, I'm not even sure what it is, it's like a stud with 2 nuts on the end. And this was one of the nuts. You see that? It's actually got a hole in it. Crazy. In my defence for missing the nuts on the back of these fixings, the parts book doesn't actually appear to show these. Anyway, excuses out of the way, I then moved on to the last fixing using the same tried and tested method of a spanner on the nut and then vice grips on what was left of the bolt head. Look at this as a nut. Can you see that? It's like worn through. How bizarre. With all of the fixings now undone, I could remove this plate. Its real name is a support frame. I'm not sure what it supports, but there we go. What is left of the support frame is off. I just need to take the other side off now. To be honest, I'm not sure which side was worse. This side still had its rubber base, which is that black rubber I'm removing, but there really wasn't much left of the bulb carrier or reflector. For context, I believe each rear light assembly should be made up of a lens retaining frame, which I didn't have on either side, the lens itself, again both missing, a rubber base, the bulb carrier, and a support frame. Once again, to get these light fixings undone, I made use of my vice grips and a spanner. For the last one, I swapped the spanner out for a 1/4 inch square drive socket on a ratchet. I did this to speed things up. What is that for the head of a nut? So let's see how the lights out. Nice. I have taken off the passenger side rear light and passenger side reflector. The light bolts did actually undo, but the reflector nut snapped. And then on this side, I've taken out the light but I can't get the reflector off just yet, and I really don't want that one to snap. So I'm going to leave that to soak in some WD-40. Now I'm going to be moving to the front of the car. At the front of the car, on the driver's side, all I need to remove is this, I think it's like a horn grille. This horn grille, indicator, light, and then the main beam. Hopefully that shouldn't cause me too much trouble. We'll see. Right, so I started with the horn grille, and I've just seen in the parts catalogue that this falls under decorative fittings. So I can confirm it serves no real purpose other than to look pretty. Talking of looking pretty, it should have been pretty easy to take off as it was only fixed to the front nose with 2 screws. But guess what? It wasn't. Everything under this wheel arch looks like it's been in the sea for about 37 years, and these 2 tiny M5 bolts didn't want to budge. I eventually got the better of them, getting one off and then the other. Next I moved on to the indicator. I'm not actually entirely sure what I'm trying to do here, as it was pretty clear that there were 2 nuts on the inside of the wheel arch holding it on. But yeah, once I'd finished trying to twist it off, I then went under the wheel arch and started to undo it. This was pretty tricky, not only because it had also been under the sea for 37 years, but because the studs, which the nut screwed onto, were about 2 inches long. I have a feeling trouble might have been missing some spacers which were designed to take up this thread, but I can't seem to find anything on this in the parts book or online, so who knows. Anyway, I persevered with a deep socket. Eventually, and I mean after some serious time, I got both the nuts off. With the nuts off, now I just had to work out how to disconnect the wires. This is such a little complicated assembly. It's like a Russian doll with all its different layers. Once I'd pulled back all the layers, I eventually found where the wires connected and some remnants of my indicator lens. With the wires disconnected, I just needed to pass them through a little rubber boot. This boot is designed to keep the water out of the indicator unit, so it's pretty tight fit on the wires, let alone getting the bullets that are on the end of the wires through the hole. The wire snips is tempting.
What's your problem? Oh, is it? You can't get the bullet through the hole?
Here we go.
You just got to push it. You can get the hot air gun and just warm up the rubber slightly.
It's through the hole. That indicator was seriously fiddly, but it is off. Now time for the headlight. This is really well secured with a single screw. So my indicators have 2 fixings and the headlight has 1. Makes so much sense. This screw may or may not have had a nut on the back. That's much better. There was a spider in there at one point. With the headlight out, I could get a much better look at the headlamp bowl. The positive was that this headlamp bowl was still solid. The negative, well, it was a particularly funny shape. It was no longer completely oval, and there was some white stuff around the rim, which looked suspiciously like filler, so I got a scraper out to investigate. I wasn't wrong. Unfortunately, it really wasn't looking good. Trouble has definitely taken a knock to this corner at some point. I swear, filler is just the hardest material in the world. This stuff doesn't want to budge. If anyone has any tips on how to remove it, I'd love to read them in the comments. Meanwhile, I'm just going to continue to keep stabbing at trouble with my scraper to try and remove it.
Shunt.
There? Is that?
It's all filler.
You need to just put a magnet.
Flipping to the time lapse, because it turns out that scraping filler isn't fast, I continued to see what I could discover. I'll be the first to admit that it does feel so wrong stabbing and scratching at trouble to try and remove this filler. As you can see, it's extensive. It just went on and on. Having had enough of finding more and more filler, I moved on to the wing mirrors. A fun fact, wing mirrors are called wing mirrors because they always used to be on the wings of cars, kind of like Trouble's. Later they moved onto the doors.
Ooh. Hello. So that comes off there.
There's some rust inside here.
Oh my Jesus. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that these wing mirror fixings aren't in a good way. I decided to let them soak in some WD-40. Fingers crossed this helps me get them undone. Whilst I was letting the driver's side wing mirror soak, I moved across to take the passenger side wing mirror off. Unfortunately, once I got this screw undone and removed the cone again, it was just as bad. This side looked no better than the other side. It also needed soaking. So I went back to the other side to see if soaking the rusty nuts had done anything. Bet you're confused with which side I'm talking about. I am.
Maybe leave them to soak a little bit longer.
Right, rolling straight into the next day, day 15. I'm going to try and attempt to catch the right hand side of trouble up with the left hand side. This means taking off the fog lamp, horn grille, indicator and headlamp. I didn't have much fun doing the left hand side, but hopefully it only gets better. Something to watch out for and count carefully is how many bolts I successfully undo. I started with the fog light. As you might be able to tell from all the spanner clinking and clunking, this was not the most straightforward fixing to get to. And to make it worse, once I finally got a spanner on the nut, the threaded spindle and fog light started rotating with it, meaning I couldn't undo the nut. In an attempt to free off the nut from the threaded spindle, I tried all sorts. I soaked it in WD-40, I got the heat gun on it. After trying to melt the nut and studs with the heat gun, I attempted to undo it again. Still, no luck. Logically, I thought that maybe trying different nut flats might help. It was a nice idea, but no. No matter whether I tried to loosen or tighten it, I couldn't get any relative movement between the threads. If I rotated the nut one way, the stud went with it, and if I rotated it the other way, the stud went with it. In a desperate plea, I thought a few taps with a spanner might help. Looking back at this, I really hope I actually didn't think that would work. I've been spending probably too long trying to take off a fog lamp. I can't stop the, I mean, this isn't the nut for this. Actually, this is the nut for this. But there's the bolt that holds the fog lamp on doesn't seem to have any way to stop it rotating. So the nut that clamps it, when I'm trying to undo it at the moment, the one that's on, the whole kind of bolt spindle is rotating and I can't seem to stop it rotating, which basically means the nut doesn't come off the bolt. So I tried all sorts of things, heating it, whatnot. I can't find a way to actually stop this rotating. The bottom does have flats on, but I can't seem to get a spanner on there at all. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of lead around the top, and then using some mole grips, I'm going to hopefully clamp the top to stop it rotating. Something like this, that focuses, and then be able to get the nut off. We'll see. It's getting pretty cold out here, as you can see. I've got a hat on. Yeah, today it's not been as productive as I'd like. I actually haven't been working out here all day. Something came up, so I left the garage. But hopefully I will get this corner, or at least the fog lamp off today. I'll be happy if I get the fog lamp off, and then tomorrow I'll come out and try and get that little grill off and the indicator. So yeah, let's see if this works. I'm not sure why, probably my mistake, but for some reason I swapped the vice grips out for some pipe grips.
I can't. The lead's too soft. It just rotates.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm never going to stop the bolt rotating just by squeezing it with some pipe grips.
If I get rid of the lead and just grip the thread, as long as I can get it undone a little bit,
Yeah.
I can then saw through the stud.
No. Why don't we just saw it off through here, then? What do you think?
Yeah. Okay, let's cut it off.
The lead and wrapping the thread in lead and using some pipe grips didn't work. Don't really know what else to try, so my headlamp's come on. Good. I'll turn this off. There we go. Hacksaw. Gonna cut the thing off. I will win one way or another. I won't lie, this was slow progress. I couldn't actually get a hacksaw in to where the fog lamp was, so I had to take the blade out of the hacksaw and use it on its own, which didn't help matters. But yeah, really, really slow. I even checked at one point that I was actually using the hacksaw blade the right way, but because I was making such a little progress. The hacksaw was becoming quite tiring, pretty slow, so we've upgraded to the angle grinder. Hopefully this should chop it off in a matter of seconds.
These glasses I can't see through.
Oh, okay.
There she is. It's hot. It's hot.
Where's the fog lamp?
Fog lamp 0. Lawrence 1. That's what I wasn't even cutting through the right thing. I'd been there for days.
Yeah.
With the fog lamp off one way or another, I moved on to the decorative horn grill. This had clearly spent too much time around the fog lamp and also didn't want to play ball. If you look closely, you can see the aluminium leg of the horn grill rotating with the bolt head. The aluminium and the steel had started to galvanically corrode. I think that's the term. This is when two dissimilar metals fuse together. Far from ideal. Not being able to undo the left bolt without the horn grill flexing, I tried to undo the right hand side bolt. Watch carefully.
Shoot it off.
One of them.
You might have spotted my mistake. I wasn't undoing the bolt at all. Instead, tightening it up to the point I sheared the head off.
Shoot it off.
One of them.
It's alright. I'll try and do the other one, see whether it actually rotates enough until it frees it. And you've got one to drill out.
Drilling that stud out in situ is not going to be fun. Even with one side of the grill free, the left-hand side kept rotating with the head of the bolt. I didn't want to damage the delicate aluminium, so I got creative. I thought if I wedged a spanner between the flat on the aluminium grill and Trouble's nose clip, it would stop it rotating. It was a nice idea, but I couldn't apply enough force on the spanner. Back to square one. I'd run out of ideas, so it was time to very delicately and awkwardly cut the head off the bolt. A fun fact while watching this small fireworks display: the sparks generated by an angle grinder don't actually hurt when they hit your skin. This is because the sparks are tiny pieces of metal and they're so small that they've pretty much lost all their heat before they hit your hands. So if you've ever wondered why it doesn't hurt, that's why. Every day's a school day.
Brilliant. Excellent. Bit that matters. Do you know what? I'm not looking forward to a cold beer after this.
No, I think I could do with a
I'm
hot
actually looking forward to a
chocolate.
warm beer. Oh, it's so cold.
With the horn grill off, next up on our hit list was the right-hand side indicator. Considering so far today I've cut through 2 bolts and snapped one, I thought it might be best to let my dad do this.
You know, I don't even care if it breaks.
I think we might have. Yeah, we have.
Turns out, it made no difference who did it. Both studs, which were integral to the body of the indicator, snapped. Fantastic. I'm going to enjoy the challenge of trying to restore this.
There's a retainer plate. Comes out. Comes out. This comes out. Oh, it's a bullet. My toes are cold. Oh. Well, that's out. What the hell is that? There's another one.
Let's cut them off. Just heat it up.
One head's just come off it.
Yeah, that's alright. It's going to come off anyway, isn't it? What is all that rubbish? Put it off the pliers.
It's like insulating tape
Yeah.
from
It's 1960, 1970 maybe.
she's clear. All in a day's work. We got rid of fog lamp, had to cut that off with the angle grinder. Got rid of the horn fairing, one of those bolts sheared, other one cut off with the angle grinder, and we got rid of the indicator, both studs sheared. All in all, we didn't undo a single bolt today. Strong. Day 14 didn't go too badly, except for till I got onto her wing mirrors, which was, I mean, let's just write that off. That was a disaster. Might as well just chop them off from the beginning. Day 15, I don't know where to begin. I didn't undo a single fixing. They either snapped or I ground them out. Not ideal, and I still actually haven't rectified the damage we caused. So I've actually still got all those studs to drill out, and I also need to start racking my brains as to how I'm going to fix that indicator, because I don't really want to have to buy a new one. It'd be amazing if I could use her old one. So yeah, still got all of that to do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to carry on watching Travel's journey back to the road, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.